look at it from an investor's perspective. And if you're gone, what's the risk?
Someone told me, of course, I'm in a professional services business, and someone told me, you'll know that you can sell the business successfully if you can imagine yourself leaving for 3 months and the business continues without you. And I was like, oh, I'm not anywhere close. Welcome back to the South Valley Chamber podcast. I'm Jen, and here with my just like light, amazing, comedic, amazing, awesome. What else can I come up with? Dave. Hi, Dave.
That's the most words I've had in an introduction, so I appreciate it. Those are all good words.
I'm going to come up with some better words
Thanks
next
for
time.
keeping the bad ones to yourself. I appreciate
like
that.
Inappropriate.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Hey, we're rocking and rolling. You know, we've got business opportunities, wellness on our mind. People are moving and shaking right now. It's a great time to be involved with the chamber. It really is.
It is an awesome time. And I have to say, again, thank you, Mountain America Credit Union. We are in just this most amazing studio with this incredible talent producing the podcast for us. We couldn't do this without them. So thank you, Mountain America.
Yeah, very, very appreciative of the space that we're in, the guests that we get to have come on, everything that the chamber is doing as far as networking with businesses and opportunity and resources for small business owners and potential business owners to help out. And I want to say a big thank you to our guest, Dean Wiltse from Sunbelt Network, to coming out and help us understand a little bit more about what you do as a business broker and the resources that you have to help potential business owners as well. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, great. Thanks. And it's great to be a member of the South Valley Chamber.
Yeah.
So, and we've been a member for about a year. So and it's been terrific. So we're probably in one of the best places in the world to be right now, right?
Absolutely.
We will all agree the climate, not only the climate, the business climate, the rest of the world doesn't look so good when you watch it from the outside. But we should be thankful to be where we are in Utah.
Yeah.
So Sunbelt Network is a group of franchise owners, of business brokers around the country, around the world, actually, over 200 locations in the U.S. But we do have offices internationally.
All right.
And the benefit that brings to our local companies in Utah is that we have data from around the world. So if someone is interested in selling a business, we know what the transactions are going for really around the world. And the company's been around for 30 years, so we have lots of great connections, opportunities with buyers. So the second busiest website for buyers of businesses is Sunbelt Network.
All right.
Number one is Biz Buy Sell, owned by the Wall Street Journal. We're number two. So we're a member of Biz Buy Sell also, but we have a lot of different methods to help business owners determine when the right time is to sell and how to help them get ready to sell.
Yeah.
So Dean, you help business owners sell and prepare to sell. Do you also help people who are interested in buying a business? Are you on that side as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's what brings buyers to us primarily is to find a business. So we don't necessarily engage with a buyer just to help them buy a business. We represent sellers of business.
Okay.
And we bring them buyers.
Okay, got it. So I'm in the executive search business, and this feels like we're kind of in the same space, right? Because I work for companies and I go out and find great leaders for them and vice versa. And you are in the business of kind of talking to businesses, understanding what their interests are, what they want to do with their business, and then going and scouting buyers for them, right? Is that essentially?
Yeah, that's right.
Similar?
I think, we have the gamut, right, from business owners that have been in business for 35 years. We currently represent several different owners, literally have been in business over 30 years.
Yeah.
Great businesses, profitable, growing. They don't have someone in the family that necessarily wants to take it over, so we help them find buyers. And usually, depending on the size and the type of business, one of the advantages we have is our network, because if you're selling a business that might be bigger than somebody that wants to operate it as a job, we have strategic buyers that we work with as well.
Interesting. And do you represent sort of all kinds of businesses?
Yeah, it's really fun actually.
Okay.
No, it's so when we started out, when I started out, the reason I ended up joining Sunbelt a couple of years ago was because I got over 25 years doing M&A transactions in the corporate world. When I led a company that actually went public on NASDAQ, and once we went public, everybody wanted to know, well, what are you going to do with that money you just raised? Not personally, but the company, because for me, I raised it for my investors. And the idea for most companies, when you take a step back as a business owner and look at where you might exit, is the best way for an existing company to grow is to buy something. Right, it's to acquire a business where they might be able to sell their existing products to their customers. So I learned really quickly in that opportunity that I had, because we did 7 acquisitions in 6 months after we went public.
Oh, wow.
And we bought $1 million company and we bought a $150 million company in 7 months. So, and I was personally calling the owners of those different businesses that we liked, that we saw that they had amazing businesses, and we weren't looking at necessarily the cash flow or the specific profitability. We were more interested in what we could do with that company and that product. So we kind of bring that attitude now to our approach where, yes, there are businesses that are great for people to buy that could be a job for somebody, but at the same time, we want to look outside that and see where is there a strategic buyer that this could really have an impact.
Really interesting.
Yeah, so our metal fabrication company just went through an acquisition back in February where we would fabricate steel pipe for water and wastewater transmission facilities. And we had a product that would conjoin our pipe together called Victaulic, and they're a worldwide global company. And they sought strategically to start acquiring steel fabrication where they could then just fabricate the pipe for their couplings and put it all together as one thing. Took about, I'm sorry, I can't say that, but it took some time to get the acquisition done, and it did. And in the short 3 months it's been like there, our opportunity for growth inside the fabrication world is just skyrocketed because of what that company saw in us and what we could bring to the table to help them out. And that was a really great thing for us, is to have more accessibility to projects that as a small mom and pop shop we didn't have before. And that's all over the board, right? Whether you're in, manufacturing or industrial, or quite even nursing and skilled nursing facilities as well. Like, there's so many different business options. So help our listeners understand, like, what are some of the hot industries right now that you guys are seeing and helping with?
Well, it's as it takes a step back and you look at what's happened in the financial markets, private equity companies have a lot of cash right now.
Right.
So, and so do VCs, right? And then if you, we quickly forget, or we try to forget, right? There was a bank failure of Silicon Valley Bank, I think. That wasn't that long ago. Right. It reminded us all of 2008. And so literally, local businesses that have been profitable, been around for years, are really attractive to investors, where services businesses, and I could even say generally, if you've got a good cash flow business and you've been in business more than 5 years, more than 10 years, and when you're over 20 years and profitable with a really great track record, you don't have to worry about what's going on in the rest of the world. Yeah. Because there are companies that are very interested in learning more about that business.
Yeah.
So, Dean, what would you tell listeners is the right time to start thinking about being ready to sell your business, right? Because there's a whole lot of work to create a valuable proposition that someone's going to want to buy, right? So, like, when do you start thinking about the end game?
That's a great question. I usually tell owners, and when I get asked that question is, don't plan an exit. Just plan on building a great business. Yeah. The exit's going to happen, right? So when you focus on profitability, great employees, great customers that come back, just focus on those things that you love to do and what you can do, and an exit's going to happen. And the best exit you can have is going to happen when you're focused on those things, right? I know you might down the road, let's say if you've have a mature business and you've been thinking about, okay, who might be a potential buyer, then it's worthwhile to have strategic sessions to think about it and plan it. But as you're going, I'd say your first 5-10 years in business, just kill it in your business, make it great, and then a good exit's going to happen for sure someday.
Yeah, that's great advice. Have you ever read the book The E-Myth? Do you know that book?
I've heard of it. No, I haven't read
Okay.
it.
I read it years ago, and essentially one of the things I took from this book, of course, I was just getting started in my business, so I had no like line of sight to, selling someday. But I thought it was really interesting advice, and I'm curious about your take on this, having worked with so many businesses. But a lot of small business owners will make the business about them, right? So if you take me out of the business, that all the value goes with me, right? So it's sort of this idea that you've got to be thinking about, how do you systematize, how do you make the business about the business and not about you as the sort of sole value
Great
in the
point.
company. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
Well, in some cases in the beginning, it absolutely makes sense, right? I would tell you, right, when you do think about selling, it is a risk for a buyer to think that if you're going to leave and if you are the brand, that's a risk for them.
Right.
So what we've seen, which is really interesting today, and this is a whole nother conversation about high interest rates, but what's really interesting is banks and even SBA lenders, right, are thinking about employee stock option purchase programs. They also are thinking, it's commonly been called an earnout for an owner, where they'll ask an owner to stick around for a year or two. It gives the owner of the business the opportunity to make a lot more by participating in the transition in the year or two after they make the sale. So, I think that it's okay to build a brand that way, but then be thinking you absolutely, and then at some point we even tell people we meet with now, okay, plan your next vacation, go for 2 weeks, don't call anybody, make sure you have a team that can run the business without you, because that'll prove to you that you can do it. And any buyer that's going to do due diligence is going to look at those same things. What's happened when you're gone, right? So it's okay to be the brand, because they'll probably want you to stick around as the founder in some way, or maybe even an image, or depending on what it is. So that's okay. You can benefit from that. But you do have to, like you said, you got to be able to look at it from an investor's perspective. And if you're gone, what's the risk? Right? So make sure that we just minimize the risk. The brand could still be terrific.
Someone told me, of course, I'm in a professional services business, and someone told me, you'll know that you can sell the business successfully if you can imagine yourself leaving for 3 months and the business continues without you and I was like, I'm not anywhere close.
That's correct.
Because you love being so hands-on.
I got a lot of work
Isn't that
to do.
it, right?
Dang it.
Well, I'll tell you, after the acquisition, it sure does take a lot of stress off of your shoulders, and transitioning to that employee role is something to not take lightly, because it's a great feeling.
I'm jealous, Dave. So let's say I am in a place where, maybe it's a 5-year horizon, but I know I'm going to exit, right? Maybe I've got ideas that I'm going to sell it, or, this idea of an employee stock. What is it called? An ESOP.
Employee stock option purchase.
Yeah. So what are the steps I should be taking, right, to prepare and be ready for that, and of course maximize the value? So
the number one advice that I give to business owners is you have to have your financials together, right? So if you obviously you're probably using a CPA to do your taxes. Maybe you're big enough that you do have an accounting team that's building, and that's terrific. If you don't, you need to put yourself in a position where you have financial statements that someone can look at from the outside and believe them and understand what the cash flow is being generated from the business. So step one is, if you're ever thinking about an exit, look inward first and see, if I were to show my checking account to somebody or my QuickBooks reports to somebody, could they understand them? Would they make sense? And so we and actually when we assess businesses when they come to us, that's really the first thing we do. And my partner is a CPA, and he's been in accounting. He's got a PhD in accounting. So that's our approach, is we want to make sure that the businesses have solid financials. So when we represent them, we can really tell the story. And then it becomes, what are the outside criteria besides the financials that really make this a great business to buy? So that would be my advice to any business owner. Because when I first started out in business, that was the farthest thing from my mind, right? But then I learned quickly that that's what you really do need to have. someone that's doing your books, hire a bookkeeper, hire an accountant, and do it every single month. And then you'll be in a much better position to think about selling down the road.
Yeah, and it's smart as a business owner to have somebody else take care of that side of it for you, so that you can take care of your business and let that run. And I know that's hard where, as an owner, you think, well, I'm really good at this, and I'm really good at this, and I'm really good at this, but then I'm really good at this, and I'm really good at this, and then you become Jen, and you don't have time to take 3 months off because you're doing everything yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And from the commercial finance side and helping potential owners buy businesses, I mean, that's the first thing we want to look at as a buyer as well, right? Is what do your financials look like? How is your personal financial statement? How do your taxes look? How is your current business running, and what income do you have coming in? And then let's look at the financials of the business you're going to buy so that we can make sure that everything cash flows together and what that looks like. And I think that's a lot of people are on the buying side of it are, I want to buy a business. What can I do? Well, one, you want to find something that you're either good at, have a background in, and especially with the SBA, like they want to make sure that you have a background in the business that you're going into, so that you're buying something that's not going to fail once you take it over, right? And there's a million different touch points that can go into that. So I've always found it very important to work with business brokers like yourself, because you're the ones that are in it. You know the business that you're selling, and you can help answer a lot of those questions for potential buyers, and then helping the sellers find the right buyers as well. So with everything that you do, what areas does your franchise location cover here in Utah?
The whole state. So we represent any business in the state of Utah. So our headquarters is in Draper. So we're right here in the Chamber area. But we have currently businesses in St. George. But I'd say really all over the state. As a Sunbelt as a network has over $1.4 billion of companies currently represented by the Sunbelt network. So it's broad. In Utah, our largest company is $82 million in revenue, $20 million of profit. Our smallest is about $500,000 in revenue and maybe $150,000 in profit.
Yeah.
So we have what we call a Main Street, focus, and then we have we call it a mid market, which is over that 2 to 20 million in revenue size, where we can focus.
Yeah.
Neat. So one of the things that is just like black magic to me, because I don't spend a lot of time on this, but
it might be, I don't know.
I talk to business owners who are going through this, and it's always like, I have no idea what my business is worth.
Yeah, good question.
Right? So tell us how valuation works.
Yeah, good. So it's almost daily, when we get an inquiry from an owner that asks that exact same thing. So here's what we say. So first thing we do have to look at to understand your business is we need to understand the financials. Then we ask how long you've been in business. Then we try to see trends. But after we get kind of the basics, we do want to assess where they're unique, right? And then we also want to assess the outside strategic buyers that may be interested. You can't always predict. One business is not the same as another. I mean, I would say, if you were to go to a franchise location of some kind of a franchise, then yes, it's predictable. You can compare it to others around the country. If you're not a part of a franchise network, your business is unique, right? You've made it into something different than other businesses.
Yeah.
So you need to be the market is going to look at you differently. So that's what we try to help owners do, is help identify what made you good, what made you grow, what made people come back. And again, we fortunately, and I said this before, we're in Utah, which is a great. I just came back I was in Kentucky 2 weeks ago. There was a national convention. It was the International Business Broker Association convention, and there were brokers from all over the country. We're very fortunate to be in Utah, and people seem to be outwardly, when they're looking at they get discouraged about the interest rates and them being high. But I'm telling you, there are programs now, and there's ways business can actually attract more, and as long as the owner is willing to stick around, like you said, for a period of time, still get good cash value for their business up front. But if they're willing to stick around for a year or two, and help a buyer target some goals, they're getting valuations now that they that they weren't able to get a year or 2 years ago. So there's a lot of buyers. I think everyone's also optimistic for things to become better globally.
Right.
And I think just naturally people are optimistic, even though it doesn't feel it, right, day to day, with the current inflation situation. But we all know, and actually I looked this up the other day for somebody, the interest rates we're at a 20-year high.
Yeah.
Right now, 23-year high. So it's not going to go up. It's going to go down, right? We might stay this way for a while, but eventually they're going to come down. So if you get into a purchase of a business and you do use SBA financing, they are adjustable rates, so you're going to be able to come down as the rates come down. If you're able to come in with more cash and reduce the debt, it's a good time to buy. And as a seller, we recommend to most sellers, and actually most people that we talk to, the seller wants to make sure that the business is going to grow and succeed, and they're willing to stick around for a year or so. So I tell people, look, don't be discouraged by that. We're actually, and I'll just real quickly here, we had a business that's, I would call a Main Street business. That's a great business, been in business for over 10 years. Came to us, we valued it. We valued it higher than other businesses that were the same in other states, and we listed it. And within 3 weeks, we had 4 offers.
Wow.
And that was this month. So, and we are in May of 24. So, it's things are very. I'd say for a climate for buying today, it's good in Utah.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny thing, right? We talk about interest rates and where that looks. We're still dealing with, companies are still acquiring businesses right now and growing. And companies are still needing equipment for their growth. And companies are still needing new buildings because they're growing and they need to house more employees. It's still happening. And I always get away from the interest rate talk because that's nothing that we as brokers can change for anybody. Right. But we have to bring the historicals on and the realization of where the market currently is. Now, a question that I want to ask of you is with, again, talk about SBA loans and owners staying on, how many of these sales are owner finance? Are you seeing that as a big thing right now? Yeah,
we are. And so I would say 2 years ago, our recommendation to an owner would be don't carry much, we would say. Today, we actually tell an owner, look, get 25 to 30% of the value you're looking for down. Yeah. Because that's a significant commitment from a buyer. Right. Right. Then your business, typically too, you have to look at it. These are businesses that I'm talking about in business more than 5 or 10 years. Yeah. If you actually own the real estate, if you're actually even in a better situation, right, as an owner. Sellers are willing to carry, and I think you can also, there's ways that we work with a couple of attorneys here locally that also can protect against the negative. If something bad were to happen and you needed to take it back, there's ways to structure a transaction where you can make that happen easier, but you also get personal guarantees from the buyer, and you not have to make sure that the buyer's strong, right? That they're absolutely. And so no, we are seeing more, and that's how we cover it.
Yeah. So speaking about interest rates and timing and all of that, some industries, right, there's better times than others to sell your business. How do you, as a business owner, let's say I want to retire in 10 years, right? And that time is flexible and I want to maximize, the valuation, and I want to sell it at the right time, and et cetera, et cetera. Is there a way to follow that trend, Dean?
Well,
can I get into something where I'm following what's going on out there in the world?
Well, no.
Great.
No. I think there's a couple.
To cheat the system.
Right. There's a couple sayings that come to mind. You can't catch a falling knife, which you don't want to do, right? And then on the other, you can never predict necessarily, right, what's going to happen. So I always, I think it's the best time to think about it is when you're growing, you're profitable, and things are going great.
Okay.
And that's when you lift your head up and you maybe, because where brokers that are experienced can really help you out is let you stay focused on what you're doing. Everything we do is confidential. No one knows anything what's going on. They don't, and until they sign NDAs, and we emphasize the importance of confidentiality. we make sure that the word doesn't get out that
Yeah.
the business is for sale, and that's really important. So through that, we can help explore that. And one of the things too that you can do as an owner is we don't charge anything until you sell. So we're not going to take on an engagement unless we believe it, right? So we want to work. We want to look at your business, give you a true assessment, and again, if the price that we tell you we think we can get is what you like, then you decide you want to sell, and we'll go for it together and help make that happen.
Yeah.
But if not, then we stay in touch. We give you some ideas. That one point question you brought up early, for example, recently we had somebody that had this founder branding issue, and we said, look, put a management team in place, be able to take that month off, and then talk to us next year, because then we can get the value you want. So there's certain things like that. It is good to check, but that's how we can help you stay focused. And then the time to sell is when things are going great.
Yeah, that's great advice.
I think if you own a business, we tell these new entrepreneurs. I'm going to my mind's going like a million miles a minute because I have so many questions about this and talking about it. Is you can start your business to sell, you can start your business to run, or and manage, or be hands off on it, or you can just do it because you want to do it, and it becomes a great moneymaker for you, and you don't want to sell. There's so many different ways to set it up from the beginning.
Yep.
That, to your point to Jen, right? It's like, when do you really know when that's happened? I think if you're making money and having a good time with your business and things start going smooth, and then you start spending more time out of the office, it becomes a little bit easier to make that decision, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it is good to, like you said, explore the possibility, not always thinking that you're going to, but we literally getting inbound, and it's actually more now than years ago because of what we talked about with the private equity and venture capital world.
Yeah.
We get calls constantly about, do you have any businesses like this? Right. And then if we do, we'll say, well, no, not right now, but we know an owner that we talked to maybe a year ago that's in this business. Then we can cultivate maybe a conversation at that point.
Yeah.
So it is always good to maybe keep your eye on it and have the contacts with somebody you trust to help represent you. And we actually earlier today, an owner said to me, well, what happens if somebody comes to me and says, I'm interested in buying your business? And I said, well, we would like you to say, well, Dean's my intermediary.
Right.
He's going to handle this for us. So you talk to him and he'll take care of it.
Yeah.
So that's really the way we like to approach it is, focus on your business and we'll help you get the best price and do the right thing. And so
that's great. What's I'm sure it's all over the board, but how long does it take to sell a business?
So there are statistics, right? And they do vary by the price, of course, right?
Sure.
So I would say businesses that are under $1 million in sales price are going to take 6 months on average in the industry. When you get over $1 million, it's going to be 6 months to a year. That there's nothing though that there's exceptions to every rule and that. So, and that's a general, I would say, a U.S. market statistic. We've experienced actually in the last year here that businesses are selling faster.
Interesting. Okay.
I think when you're, a VC or you're sitting on that money, you want to go put it out there. And so your due diligence happens a lot faster because you find a product that you either have an idea of how you can change that or put it to market in a certain way or put it into your arsenal of, what you do already. So,
yeah. And that is another good approach, right? Is one of the things that we try to do is a lot of times we don't even publish an asking price, right? We'll go to the market and say, well, we're not going to negotiate with ourselves. We want the market to tell us what the business is worth. So then you get multiple people inquiring and saying, well, here's what we think it's worth. Here's our value. And you truly, they start thinking about, okay, if like in your situation, right, can we take this product and sell it to our existing customers?
Right.
And if that's the case, the value for that is going to be a whole lot higher than somebody that's looking at how much profit did you make last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy what a $1 billion company can do and how fast they can move to make that happen. Absolutely, yeah. And then it happens and you're sitting like, so should we be doing something right now? And they're like, don't worry, we got to change a bunch of stuff. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
So I guess along those lines, right, would you also help if, let's say I'm growing, things are going well, I would really love a larger business to come in, invest in us so we can continue to facilitate that growth, right? And be acquired. But I don't want to leave. I want to continue with the business. Is that something that you do?
Yes, totally.
Incy?
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, and then that is, I would say today that's much more common.
Okay.
Where owners are thinking about an exit, and it's actually smart to not say, okay, I want to exit this year and I'm going to sell at this price, but think about, I do want to get the most value, and I'm willing to stick around. And if I had an investor that came in, obviously we would advise you get as much cash as we can off the table at a value you want, because they're going to take control.
Yeah.
But there's an opportunity, and I could share with you too from personal experiences that can be really great, right? Because when you think about, and you would think about this strategically yourself before you made the decision, is this buyer really going to be successful?
Yeah.
And you're going to do as much due diligence on them as they're going to do on you.
Yeah.
And if you believe it, it can be really dramatically rewarding when you get someone that can take your product and do more with it.
Yeah.
And you be able to participate in that down the road.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So we do a lot of work with the PE firms who have just bought a founder-led company, right? And now they're supplementing their teams, or they're building a leadership team. And I literally had this conversation today, so I'm curious on your, I imagine there's some level of therapy, Dean, that you do with these business owners, because one of the questions I ask, right, I'm talking to a CEO, and he needs a certain executive, and so far he's built the business on the people that he knows and he trusts, right? But now we need to bring in like a heavy hitter for this engineering leadership role. And the question always comes up, like, what are you going to do when somebody from the outside comes into your business and tells you that your baby's ugly, right? Like, how are you going to respond to that, right? So I imagine some of that happens in the sell process as well, right? Where you get a lot of criticism, or you get rejected or whatever. So what's the emotional side of this
that's a really good point.
With?
So actually, we try to buffer a lot of that, because we're trying to screen buyers, so we're trying to buffer the sellers from that. So we see it, but they don't always see it. But it is true, right? So I think that what we find also is that a seller, when it really comes down to the point where they're going to be turning the keys over to somebody after 30 years, there's a gut check, right?
Yeah.
There's a revisiting of, what am I doing? Just natural. So I think what we try to do is have that conversation as early as possible to let them know it's coming. It is, right? It's coming.
Yeah, once you sell, I mean, it's no longer yours. You're
yours.
talking about like an investor coming in and taking ownership of the company.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be on board with letting that thing go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the more prepared you are, and the more you think about it, the better.
Yeah.
But you're right; it's very common, but it is good, and I think that's one of the things that we can help bring to the table, because we've seen a lot, is to share with an owner and tell them, look, this is how you're going to feel. This is what it. And it's not laying down on it. It feels sometimes like laying on the couch, but it is the frank conversations, and we try to do that up front.
Yeah, that's smart.
To prepare them.
That's smart. I think I imagine I'm not alone, but sometimes as a business owner, your dream is, I'm going to pass on this legacy, right? The kids or somebody, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's going to take this and carry the legacy on. That's what I did. I bought it from my mother-in-law.
Oh, nice.
Sadly, I don't think my children are interested in what I do.
That's very common.
Right? And so there is like this mental game going on around, like, am I willing to let the legacy go away with, because you have to give it up and say, well, now it's Dave's company and Dave's going to do what Dave wants to do with it, right?
Yep.
Or do I go the path of an employee-owned,
You
an
could
ESOP?
do either. You should explore.
Right?
You should explore them all.
But it's definitely an emotional decision as much as it is a practical financial decision, right? And you really have to be prepared for that, I suppose.
It's true. And then if you have the attitude, right, that you're just exploring and you do explore the alternatives, then I think the right things will happen, right? Because you may not find the right person to step in as that's not a family member to buy the business. You might. If you do, it's a great feeling and you feel confident and you're happy with that more than a stranger
Right.
coming in to buy the business. On the other hand, that may never happen, right?
Right.
So it is good to explore the options
Yeah.
to see what's out there. And, from there, you can only think if you don't do it, then when you do decide, okay, I want to sell this year and I want to sell, you're not in the best negotiating position,
Yeah.
right? The best place to sell a business is when you're growing and you're happy, and take a step back and think, okay, well, maybe if I had somebody come in here and buy now, how much would I get?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we'll find
What would
out
that
and
look
we'll
like?
tell you what
Yeah.
we think.
Yeah. That's great advice. Well, this has been awesome. I think I'm going to call Dean.
Your team's not listening, right, Jen?
No, it's for our best interest.
Yes.
I'm way
Yes.
beyond, this is far, I can't leave the business. They'd kill me if I
Yeah.
left the business for 3 months. So I got work to do, but I should at least know
Try 1
what this
month
looks
first.
like.
Try
Yeah.
2 weeks maybe.
Yeah, call Shelly, do some beach management, and
That's
ask
right.
what that's like, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. Well,
Great,
Dean,
thank you.
if the listeners want to reach out to you, get some of your expertise, right? Like, how do they find you?
I just Sunbelt Network Utah will show up, or Sunbelt Network Draper, but Sunbelt Network Utah is we represent the state. We are headquartered in Draper, so I think just find us online and connect with us through that, and we'll be happy to follow up and talk to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for all the wisdom today. It's
Thank
been
you.
Really
It's
great.
fun.
And we appreciate your pitch at the Member 101 and being able to hear what you do and being a member of the South Valley Chamber. So
Oh, I missed that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, it's a great chamber. It's a great place to be. So everybody in the South Valley needs to really recognize how great it is to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Dean, and thanks to our listeners for tuning in to another podcast, the Jen and Dave Show for the South Valley Chamber. And again, a big thanks to Mountain America for your lovely facilities. Have a
Thanks,
good
everyone.
night. We'll see you guys later.